listen-only mode.
The City of Tampa Community Redevelopment Agency meeting is called to order. I don't believe we have an invocation for this event. Pledge? Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Miranda.
Here.
Goods.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Vieira.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
And Hurtek.
Here.
We have a fiscal quorum.
Thank you. If Mr. Massey, if you would review the rules pertaining to public comment and participation.
Will do. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a special call meeting of the City of Tampa Community Redevelopment Agency, or the CRA, held at 5:01 p.m. on September 20, 2022, in City Council chambers on the third floor of Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard here in Tampa, Florida, for the purpose of considering the proposed FY 2023 CRA budget for recommendation of approval to Tampa City Council. This public hearing pertains solely to the proposed CRA budget, and comments should be limited to the CRA budget. There is a special call Tampa City Council public hearing at 6 o'clock p.m. this evening for consideration of the FY 23 millage rate and budget for the City of Tampa. The proposed CRA budget will be contained and informally approved as part of the overall city budget at 6 o'clock p.m. The public is able to attend this meeting in person or view it via cable television on Spectrum Channel 640 or Frontier Channel 15, or by the internet via www.tampa.gov/livestream. The public is also able to participate in this meeting during public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, either here in person in City Council chambers or virtually by way of Communication Media Technology, or CMT. However, the use of CMT does require pre-registration with the City Clerk's office. Directions for pre-registration are included in the notice of the meeting and on the agenda. Can I please have a motion waiving the CRA standard rules and procedures to allow public comment and participation by CMT and participation by board member Mr. Carlson by CMT as well? Thank you.
Motion made by Board Member Goods and seconded by Board Member Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes. Board Member Carlson.
Thank you. Could I just, for the public and my colleagues, please apologize again. I came down with COVID last week, and I'm, depending on how you count, I'm in the 9th or 10th day. So per CDC guidelines, if I test negative tomorrow, I will come in person on Thursday unless anybody has any concerns about that. But so far, it seems like I'm almost away from it, and apologize I can't be there in person. Thank you for accommodating me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Ms. Travis? Oh, do we, oh.
Well, you could, it might make sense in this case for Ms. Travis to present the budget and then allow for public comment and for any questions from you all, and then have final.
Well, good evening. Nicole Travis, Administrator of Development and Economic Opportunity. I am here to present to you the CRA Community Redevelopment Agency budget for fiscal year 2023. This presentation is one that you've seen a couple times, and we've talked through some of those items that I would bring to you back in November to make some allocations for our reallocations for our housing initiative based on the motion that was previously made and the direction that you've given us at the last city budget workshop. So can you see the presentation? Sure. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So the total increment amongst our overall 8 of your districts is $57,914,000. You'll see that that's a 28% change. That change is reflected when you have a healthy real estate market and your values continue to go up, and when things are not as great, you see that that increment starts to go down. And so we have consistently benefited from a healthy real estate market as we continue to see investments happen within our districts. And that will continue to impact the increment that you get to budget for over the 8 districts. This is just a quick chart to show you how the funding is broken down into. The biggest one is capital improvement projects. That's not unlike all CRAs across the state. CRAs typically invest where the private sector is not investing, or you want to jumpstart investment, or where there's things that you want to happen at a faster pace than what your typical budget process would allow. And so that's pretty healthy. Your operations and administration budget for the size of district is 4.4%. That's kind of low. And as a part of my evaluation of the budget staffing that you've asked me to look at and the housing, those things will be brought back to you. The financial piece in November, staffing adjustments in December. Redevelopment investments, 20% of our overall budget, and then you'll notice that the 3.9% is for your affordable housing initiatives. We're gonna redo this chart when we come back in November to show you what that reallocation looks like. Elise Drumgo, Deputy Administrator, has went to all of the CAC meetings at this point, conveyed the CRA board's intent, and we are working with the CRA managers, some kicking and screaming, some walking hand in hand, but they're fine, right? We're going to do that. The initiative is there. We're in the CRA board, the city council, and the mayor have recognized that we are in a housing crisis and that we're going to do everything that we can to continue to spur additional investment as well as investing in housing. So you'll see this updated when I come back to you in November. So the first district that we're going to talk about is your downtown district. You have the core and non-core of downtown with a $22.9 million TIF revenue, and those expenses are broken down into some for operations, but you'll see a lot of contractual planning. We had to update the CRP plan. That's a part of this budget. Streetcar projects, the Cross Bay Ferry, all of which that you've heard from reports over the last couple of years. Convention center renovation, loan repayments, and a master plan infrastructure agreement and some facade. And then you see a line item for the Strad Center cultural improvement grant at $2.5 million. One of the things that I'm gonna bring back to you, and it'll be more relevant to the downtown CRA, but when I bring the plan back to you in November, what you will see is I'm going to present to you what commitments we have made and the duration of those commitments. So the Straz is one of those that you've made a longer commitment to. We have Tampa Arts is another one.
Well, we've not brought forward a grant agreement, but the Tampa Museum of Arts, and there's some other cultural institutions that have requested funding for some improvements. And then also there's the long-term commitment with the Water Street project.
Water Street project.
And the convention center.
Yep. So we're gonna put that holistic picture for you, just so you have a real-time view of what we're working with in the downtown CRA. If I keep going, okay, Channel District. In your Channel District, we have $10.2 million, about the same in operating salaries, and then streetcar projects is another line item in this budget. Professional services, again, we had to update our CRP plan and make some other incentive programs, and you see community policing as some long-term future projects that we're anticipating, and we have allocated for those line items. The facade grant program, $110,000, and then capital improvement projects, you see that's a big part of this budget with $8.9 billion. That's like for the one, improvements you're seeing on Channel side, Cumberland, we brought those GMP contracts to you recently. And those are the type of projects we're talking about. Tampa Heights, CRA, is $1.8 million in TIF increment, and you'll see it's a smaller portion of operation and salaries for this district, and we have some small capital improvement projects, and then a portion of our budget goes to that CDD, that was approved for the Tampa Heights Riverfront project. Central Park CRA. It's our small but mighty budget, $249,000, and $209,000 of that budget is going towards capital improvement projects within the CRA district. And as we have a small facade grant program. Ybor City CRA, you have Ybor 1 and Ybor 2. Ybor 1 has a $3.2 million TIF increment. And as we've talked about, we have a little over $500,000 in operations and administration. And then in district programs and services, has been some conversation about the line items in here. I'm happy to take any additional comments that you have for any future changes, but right now we have landscaping, signage, all of the things that makes Ybor really a great district, district ambassadors and district promotions, and then you have a line item for co-sponsorships, and that's really for event promoting, economic development, cultural programs, and then again, streetcar project. Capital improvement projects, you have the iconic archway lights preservation piece that's a little over $500,000. That's a part of this budget as well. In Ybor 2, that increment is at $1.4 million, a smaller portion of operations and administration. But you can see the district landscaping, streetscape signage is really the largest portion of this budget. And we have a small amount for facade improvement grants. In East Tampa is our largest district. It's also the district with the most need, and I would contend that the district that has paid attention to your housing affordability the most in performing in the programs that they're providing for down payment assistance, owner-occupied rehab, looking at the tenant or landlord rehab programs. And so operations, you have a little over $500,000, but you could see that in the district programs and services, a lot of that is cleaning up. Not just the clean team, but the environmental detectives. We have someone that is working strictly for East Tampa, looking at code enforcement, security, safety issues. Call him all the time. He's put to use very well. But then you have street light, operating expenses, again, crime prevention through environmental design, where we can light up, we're doing that. And so I think that a lot of that district programming and services you're seeing is reflective of a district that's working hard on turning the corner in the redevelopment area. And then as I mentioned earlier, the residential rehab owner alternative housing options, you have $1.7 million allocated just in that housing. Business assistance is at $600,000, and that's based on a new program that the East Tampa CRA just approved or recommended for approval, and this board approved that. Neighborhood infrastructure, $2 million, and then continuous improvements and public art projects would be a little over $2 million. Drew Park CRA, this is $2.3 million TIF increment, and that's broken out into $182,000 for your operating. And when you look at other professional services, I would suggest that that's also evidence of a CRA or a CAC that's working really hard in trying to get their projects aligned and get some development really happening in the Drew Park area. Affordable housing initiatives, $100,000, and residential improvement grants at another $125,000. Neighborhood infrastructure, which is really a lot of streetscape, beautification, master planning, is $1.6 million. Yeah, the lightning is just making sure we're awake and I'm not boring you to death. So the West Tampa CRA is a $6.6 million increment for being one of your newest CRA district. This CAC has been working really hard to put forth, to be very thoughtful and intentional about the programs that they're putting forth. So they've worked on, they have a West Tampa overlay, so they're planning for code revisions and allocated some funds for that, district maintenance, and then promotional and special events. I've talked to you about that, and we'll be bringing back to you, recommending a policy to you in January so that all 8 CRA districts are operating from the same policy when it comes to supporting promotional events. The redevelopment investments, residential exteriors, $300,000, business enhancements, microgrants, $100,000, business facade and site improvement, $120,000, and then the capital improvement projects is at $5.6 million. That concludes my budget presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Board Member Goods.
Good evening, Ms. Travis. I had a small conversation with your East Tampa manager and your deputy director. When you bring back the budget breakdown in November, when it relates to housing, and I've heard a little rumble, some certain CRAs talked about housing, and I made a couple of phone calls to a few of their members and let them know that everyone has to be a good partner, a good neighbor in this system.
Sure.
Because they've asked for a lot of big projects and we've granted them. So now we have to be a good neighbor to everyone. And those few that I did call understood. Secondly, I like to see what we didn't do in past administrations. We didn't buy dirt. And that's kind of the problem we're in right now. So when we look at some of the dollars, when you come back with your breakdown of housing, I want to see where can we have money allocated for dirt. You need dirt to be able to get out of us some of this housing crisis in these districts, in the east and the west. And even when I talked to some of the folks in Channel, we should have been buying dirt back then, and we probably could be able to have some things we need at this point. So I want to look at where in the budget, when you bring it back, where we can look at a line item for dirt, because we need to buy dirt to be able to help some of the housing issues.
Sure. So I know some of your CRAs already have a line item for land acquisition, and that's rolled up in this presentation and not necessarily broken out. But I can give you for each district how much is allocated, if any, for land acquisition.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Board Member Vieira.
Thank you, ma'am. I have a question. This 30% goal that we're looking to aspire to, is it for 1 year? For how long are we looking at doing that for?
Well, I don't know.
That's
That's
the
up to
question.
that's up to
Yeah.
the CRA board. And so you asked us to look for fiscal year '23, and I would contend that you should be looking at it for fiscal year '24. The things, so can I just put a pin in that and come back? The one thing about CRA budgets, or the way that I like to approach it, is using the budget as doing like a 10-year CIP, if you will. And that way you can look at what big buckets you have on the side, how much are we gonna be putting dollars in over time, and like, how long, so housing, affordable housing or residential development would be one of those buckets, and then capital projects. And then we could look over, and then you can plan for it long-term. Your increment is going to adjust all those years, but then you'll have a big picture of what's coming in year 2, what's coming in year 3. Right now, we're budgeting 1 year out, and the CRA with capital improvement projects, these are multi-year projects, and everything, so redevelopment, I try to tell you guys that redevelopment takes time, and you have to have patience in redevelopment, but you also have to plan. And if there is direction that you want to see housing, residential allocation later on for the residential component, you could say to project out 2 or 3. You can't commit to that. It's just like a snapshot on how those numbers will move. And every year we will adjust based on what that increment, what the market is doing at that time, what increment do you have, what new initiatives or new projects becomes a priority, and you get to shuffle. But at least it gives you a big picture. So if it were me, I would say that on a 3-year horizon, that you should know what your commitment is going to be to housing. And I will say in my very direct way that you can't tell me that housing is a crisis and you're not paying attention to what it's going to look like in year 2 and 3. And so I know we're going to talk about housing in our next budget session, but as a CRA, you got $10 million of new increment. You have a crisis on your hands, and we're doing everything that we can. But the crisis doesn't end at the end of fiscal year 23.
Yeah, sure.
How do we continue to position ourselves
Yeah.
to move forward? So that would be up to you on how long you want to do it. It would have to be approved annually for the budgets, but.
Yeah, and that was my question, because I know in certain CRAs, we have certain budget things that were passed that are gonna go up in cost. And
Sure.
could pose a problem in the coming years, et cetera. So I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't know if it was a one-year thing, because, I mean, I'm certainly not an economist, but I think that these high prices, maybe we'll see some slacking off of them, but they're gonna be with us for a long time, and
Yeah.
the after effects of them. And so this is a good opportunity to use what we can, but again, just inquiring in that regard. I guess it would be up to the board.
It's ultimately up to the board, but I just tell you, just have been in the profession for a long time. You have to position yourself to financially to make certain deals. You have to strategically look at things. I am not the type of person that go out and buy a piece of property unless it's a strategic acquisition, right? And so, okay. The CRA, I don't believe that it's the role of the CRA to influence the private market when the market is doing well. I think what you can do is augment the areas that you want to improve. And so whether that means buying highly overpriced property, I don't know, but you can position yourself to be a player when those properties are being developed. And so there need to be strategic acquisition, and not just pinpoint that we're going to go after this. How do we make a concentrated effort in some of the larger districts so you have a bigger impact? Because when you make investments scattered out through a really large district, you look like you're not having any impact because the whole thing is blighted. So how can we be more strategic but position ourselves financially to make those decisions when opportunities present themselves?
Thank you for your answers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No,
Board Member
good.
Seatrip.
We have a CRA that has very little, if any, room for affordable housing, and that would be in the Ybor City area. How are we going to tell them to put 30% of their monies into affordable housing when there is little or no room for affordable housing within that CRA?
So I wouldn't say that I'm up for the challenge. And so I wouldn't say that there's no room for affordable housing. There are second floors and some of them are vacant in development. And so we make the allocation and you adjust. So the one thing about CRA is like you have to be nimble, right? When things are working, you double down on it so that you can get it. When they're not working, you have to be flexible and changing your program and responding to what the developers, developers is not a four-letter curse word, okay? It's like, it's not a bad thing. We need their investment. So how do we work alongside the developers to fill those gaps and to fill the needs? So in Ybor, I think that there are opportunities for housing, maybe not the size of affordable housing developments that we've brought to you, but I think that we can get creative. If you put the challenge before us, I think it's up for us to get creative. So I don't have an answer for you right now, but I'm up for the challenge.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Board Member Goods.
and the reason I say that, I don't want us to miss an opportunity that we missed with Funland. We should have bought Funland.
Well, I don't disagree with that. But the developer that purchased we were trying to purchase Funland and made 2 passes at them. The developer that bought Funland for significantly more money than we had.
But not when it was on the market first. We had about the apple first, but where it was low. It was only $1 million first.
Okay.
And we didn't bite the apple. It was $1 million at first, and we didn't bite it. I told the last folks over here, we needed to buy that property.
Yeah. Look,
And we didn't buy the property.
hindsight is always 20/20,
Yeah,
right?
but
Like,
he said,
so
I had the money, Miss Travis. We
I
had the
know,
money.
but you didn't get it. So here we
didn't
are.
get it. I don't want to miss another opportunity that
I got you.
That's why I said we have to look, because
So
that
when
was
you-
a prime opportunity.
So when you see another property that you think we should invest in, I'd be more than happy to take that phone call and investigate that.
How much did it sell for? It went up to
11 million.
11 after, but it was $1 million in the market first. And the guy bought it, and then the guy comes behind him and sells it for 11 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Madam
Anyone
Chair.
else? Okay.
Madam
I
Chair.
would- Oh, I'm sorry. Board Member Carlson.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for bringing me in between the storms. Just to respond to a couple things my colleague said, when we passed this 30% rule a couple years ago, I think it was aspirational and it didn't have an end date, but it is something that we know we need. And if we're going to take money from other parts of the city and distribute them in these areas, then we need to make sure that they're used for the right purposes. And affordable housing is one of the specified areas that the legislation says that we can spend money on. The other thing that I think we should spend money on is just the basic infrastructure to help people have a higher, better quality of life. In the past, the money for these CRAs has been used to subsidize development. And I don't agree with that because I think it's anti-competitive. It's not fair to subsidize one developer versus another. That's how countries and cities get in trouble by picking favorites or picking winners. And it's not fair to the basic capitalist entrepreneurial market. Also, government should be in the position of serving market failures. And when there's a situation where we need to bring some services in to solve a problem, we can do that. And ideally, they would be amenities that are accessible by everybody throughout the city. But in terms of affordable housing, Nicole, I think that we should we don't have workshops for the CRA, but I wish we could have something like a workshop with you just to talk about your expertise, maybe Kaon's, on how you think a CRA should spend money for affordable housing. Everything that I've been taught says that instead of having big concentrations of poverty, big multiplex developments with hundreds of units, that we should have it dispersed, and that really what we should focus on is home ownership for folks. But that's a philosophical conversation we should have. My colleagues will remember 3.5 years ago, I asked, and we made a motion and it passed, I think unanimously, to create a strategic plan for the CRA, not for the CACs or the districts, but for the CRA. And we never got around to this affordable housing thing is the only kind of strategic thrust that we have throughout the CRA. And I hope we can come back to the planning at some point. But the affordable housing definitely is a major issue we need to address. And if we can't address it in certain districts, like downtown and Channel District, I wouldn't touch the others, but downtown and Channel District, we could put a cap on it or reduce the funding of these and move the money into a fund that could either pay for affordable housing or sidewalks or bike lanes or whatever we want with our city council hats on. So I think we should continue to look at options. This is a precious amount of resources getting bigger every year, but it's a precious amount of resources that the majority of the city is giving us or allowing us to spend in a very strategic way. And we need to make sure that we're spending in the most responsible way, getting the most results. Again, going back to the legislation to solve problems of sun, blight, disease, and affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Carlson. Should the CRA board decide, it's been brought up by Councilman Carlson to do a strategic planning session with the CRA board. I'm all in, Elise is all in on that. So if you want to pick a time for your CRA, one of your CRA board meetings, we can try to strategically do it when it's not a month with a lot of reports and just lighter action items.
What would you recommend?
I would like to get through the budget tonight, and then I'll come back and ask you guys for that. But if that's the direction, and you could just tell me to kind of figure that out, I'll come back to you with maybe a recommendation. But the one thing that I wanted to say about EBOR in particular, but all of the CRAs, is really having an opportunity to evaluate the programs that are in place and to evaluate whether they're working or not. Are we getting the return on investment that we should be getting? Are we continuing to put funding towards programs that aren't yielding the best return? And I think this exercise, we're trying to figure out the housing component, really is giving us a chance to look at all the line items, see how the programs are performing, prioritize this board's intent, and come back with a recommendation to you. And that's it.
Okay. Actually, first I need to open it to public comment.
Yes,
Did
you
you
need to
read
take
them?
public
So-
comment first.
No,
Is,
no. Yes,
there-
positive.
is there anyone in the room that would like to make a public comment on this agenda item? Okay. Going once? Okay, well then.
Lucky you.
Okay, I have a movement. Okay, I have a, move the
Motion to
I
move
have a
this.
motion to approve the resolution from Board Member Maniscalco, seconded by Board Member Goods. Roll call vote.
Miranda,
Yes.
Maniscalco. Yes. Citro,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goode,
Yes.
Vieira,
Yes.
and Hurtak.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All righty.
Okay.
So-
There's one more thing I think you wanted to ask about.
Yes. Okay, so I have one item for you, and if I could just hand this memo out to the clerk and to.
Thank you, sir.
CRA Board, and on September 8th at the CRA Board meeting, we talked about the process for the CRA director and the interview process that you wanted to move forward with, and you asked me for dates at that time, and I couldn't give you an answer then, and I told you it will require some special call meetings, and so I'm asking you to set those special call meetings for the interviews and of the next CRA director. And so first, we need two publicly noticed meetings. One is for the candidate interviews that you wanted to do collectively as a board. You and your aides have received emails from me setting up your 30-minute sessions with each one of the candidates, and so we're filling those slots now, but you're gonna have a interview time with the candidates publicly. That's for the October 19th, and then October 26th is for your decision on how you want to proceed with the CRA director, whether you're picking one of the candidates before you, whether you have additional decisions, but that time is allotted strictly for the CRA director. And then lastly, we talked about having a meet and greet for the CAC members, because the CACs are heavily involved with your CRAs. You guys depend on them a lot. And so we're doing what I'm recommending is a meet and greet social with the candidates, tentatively scheduled for October 19 at the Tampa Convention Center between 6 and 7:30. This is strictly a social gathering. No official CRA business can take place. Morris would like to talk to you a little bit more about that, because we've had extensive conversation about this is strictly social.
Right, it needs to be, if you're going to do this, it's strictly a social type of meeting. It can't be discussion really, it can't be part of the candidate evaluation process. It really can't. If it becomes that, then we're getting into a sunshine type of situation where we need to have a more formal type of meeting, and I don't think that's what the board's intent is or Ms. Travis's intent is. It's just here you can meet who these folks are, shake their hand, that really is what the purpose of this meeting is. It's not to be evaluation by you or the CAC anyway, so.
Board Member Maniscalco.
Will there be snacks and refreshments?
I can arrange that.
Then I'll be supportive of this, thank you.
Board Member Goods.
But this is really for the CACs to be able to meet the candidates.
CACs
That's right.
and the CACs, and so what we will do should you move forward with this recommendation for the social, we're gonna talk to the CACs, invite them, we're gonna do an invitation, they'll get a printed invitation from us. But, we're gonna talk to them about this being strictly social, not discussing CRA business, and they can take their feedback back to you as, am I out of line with that? Is that okay? No?
No.
The CACs, okay. Legal counsel is telling me no. Let me just say this, should you want something more formal, you need to tell me so that we can we can make the arrangements for it to be a more formal structure, publicly noticed meeting in the sunshine.
Yes, Board Member Good.
I think you need to give the CEC members a guide of what can be asked and what can't, because they don't know. All they know, they go into a social, and they may ask a question, so I think you may give a little guidelines of what can be asked and what can't. That way, they don't get in trouble, and that way, it's an actual social.
And one issue that the clerk raised is I think you want to have one of the meetings on a Wednesday, or are they both on Wednesdays?
Yes.
No,
I think the 26th is,
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
is it a Wednesday too?
Code
Probably.
enforcement has their hearings in this chamber at that time. So we either have to have another time or another location, so.
Which date?
Is it both Wednesdays, suing? Yeah, it's both, and then they have it in the afternoon, I know, they have both.
We can make arrangements so just from a calendaring perspective, scheduling 28 interview meetings and trying to get this on and to move in an expeditious process when you're recruiting for this type of position. So I would request that you allow me the opportunity to find a different venue for us to meet and keep the dates as presented.
Yes, Board Member Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. Is there going to be public comment at any of these or no?
Yes.
There will be, because I was going to suggest the Sister Cities room, but it's going to be too small if we're going to.
I mean, we've had, and I don't know whether, and we'll have to talk to Cable and TNI about this, but we did, you'll remember that during the outbreak of COVID, we did have some meetings at the convention center. So that's a potential location for this. So we'll work on that. And
I know the convention center director.
If not the convention center, there's also the River Center at
Yeah.
Julian Lane that
Yep.
has parking right there,
Yep.
so there's no issue with
Yep.
ADA and whatnot. And
Yep.
so whatever you do, but I would make then the
All three of
motion.
those came to mind when
Okay.
we thinking venue, so I
You
figured.
know the convention center director.
I know the
so-
convention center director,
So then a motion to set
Second.
October 19th and October 26th at 9 a.m. For those hearings, pending a location that will
correct. We
accommodate.
will make sure that when we publicly notice the meetings, that the location is
In the evening.
presented.
Oh, and then there's also going to be that meet and greet social at the convention center, October 19th, 2022.
I can't do either one of those days. Just letting you know now. I got livable roadways and nothing.
Neither one of the dates you said? So one of the things, one of the reasons why we're doing the individual interviews is so that I'm going to be on all of the interviews with you. After that, I will meet with you individually without the candidates to get your feedback. And so Councilman Citro, you can know that I'll meet with you and convey your wishes
Thank you. I just have.
Where
a little
appropriate.
At a notice public hearing.
at a notice public hearing. Listen, I can't do this without Morris. I just want y'all to know.
Motion stands.
Okay, a motion made by Board Member Maniscalco, seconded by Board Member Goods. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
that's it. Okay, well, a motion to receive and,
Hey,
Do we have any? I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but Miss Nicole Travis is guiding me. I've got two requests coming up, and this is not going to be any motions or anything, because you're not allowed to make motions. I'm just asking. Number one, Florida Aquarium receives a large part of our Parks and Recreation children going to the Florida Aquarium. Is there any way we could help them not only in the renovations, but however in green space, surrounding the aquarium itself. That's one. This is just food for thought. Number two,
Response.
I spoke with Hope, which is a faith-based organization, and they have concerns about retention ponds, West Tampa and East Tampa. And I know that we are working with wastewater and with Parks and Recreation, but I'm hoping this could be a CRA project
Okay.
that can move these fences from the outside perimeters to the inside, more toward the ponds, so that we can free up space for parks, dog parks, playgrounds, those type of things. And also get some sort of aeration or fountains in these retention ponds, which would help with the stagnation, bring back crustaceans, fish, birds, wildlife, to not only bring up extra space for the neighborhoods, but beautification.
Was this West Tampa only, did you say?
West Tampa, East
You want
East
all-
Tampa, and there is retention pond in West Tampa also.
Okay.
Board Member Carlson.
If Board Member Citro was finished, thank you. Nicole or Ms. Travis, an example that you could look at is called Swan Pond on the western side of Hyde Park Village. It was a project I worked on as a volunteer, but it was a partnership between several different agencies, and they did just what Board Member Citro was recommending just now. One of the things was putting a nicer fence and moving it closer to the water line and aerating it so that you can activate what little ground space is there. Second thing, while I have the floor, I won't make a motion on this, but if you could please talk to the administration as the CRA executive director. The organization chart inside the budget of the city looks like it's an old organization chart. When we negotiated the new agreement with the administration for the CRA executive director a few years ago and the staff, the way we structured it was that the executive director and the staff would report to the CRA board, and then there would be a dotted line to the mayor or the chief of staff for HR reasons. The way it's structured in the org chart is that there's a solid line from the mayor to the CRA staff, and there's no line from the CRA board or the city council. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that. I think it's confusing.
That, I can assure you that that's an oversight, because we have a working table of organization that shows a line to the council as a board. But one of the things that, since we're talking org chart, and I wasn't prepared to do this, one of the things that I'm hearing is that you want to hire a CRA director, but you like the pace that Elise Drumgo and I have set with the CRA and want to continue to be involved. And so that's for consideration when you talk about hiring a CRA director. If it's a solid line from the executive director to the CRA board, there needs to be a reporting structure if you want us to continue the tempo. It's not a conversation for right now, but I know that the org chart is probably just an oversight, because there is one that is properly aligned, because I've seen it and I have it in my office. So that's just a carryover probably from future, but noted.
Just one quick response to that, if I could, Madam Chair. In any org chart, the way leadership consultants and HR people look at it is that management is about managing the white space between the boxes. And so I think that's more of the nuance that you're talking about. The way it's structured in the one inside the budget, the box of the CRA staff is along the same lines as all the other staff. And I think by putting it there's an applied level of collaboration. And that's really what it is. It's collaboration. I think we all, with both of our hats, would encourage collaboration. But the way it's structured is that the executive director reports to us. Technically, these are all staff of the city, but the CRA board is in a way leasing them or buying their time. And so we need to make sure they're dedicated to the CRA. And if they're working on something else, then that needs to be explicit in the contracts. And there's you and I talked about this at length yesterday, but there's also a difference between like regular economic development and what the CRAs are doing. And hopefully with someone enlightened like you, then we can collaborate more. But just in case we have somebody who's not enlightened like you in the future, we need to make sure that the CRA people don't get grabbed to work on something else or get pushed in the wrong direction when the CACs and the CRA board have a certain plan that they're implementing. Thank you.
Board Member Citro.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nicole, Ms. Travis.
Yeah,
I want to thank you very much for listening to my concerns
Sure.
about those retention ponds. I will tell you later on which ponds that I'm thinking about, but if we could also look up toward the university area, if there's a chance, I would also appreciate that too.
sure. Madam Chair, may I?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So I'm just taking notes as you guys speak. So Florida Aquarium, I have a meeting with the CEO on this Friday, and so when appropriate, I will report back, but I'm actively working on that. The retention ponds with the CRA, I do believe that some of those retention ponds are addressed in the East Tampa SAP that was just recently adopted, and what I hear you asking is how can we use our retention ponds as an amenity to the district, and also while it's functioning, there's a functional use for it, but how can we make it more of an amenity for the district?
Correct.
So I will get with Administrator Nguyen and Administrator Duncan, Osea for Parks and Recs, and Jean for the infrastructure, stormwater component, and see how we can work to that. I just want you to know that so that I'm fully transparent with you. We can talk about enhancing these amenities to be, for them to be amenities to the district. However, we have to be very careful with cleaning or doing any work that should be done by the city budget and not supported by the CRA budget. And so we are, okay, I just want to make, we are very collaborative, and we get along very well. And so having these kinds of conversation on the administration level is easy for us to have and figure out how we can partner. So I'll take a look at it, and hoping you guys can get a break before the next one.
Hopefully we can work everybody together under the umbrella of the CRA. Thank you.
Morris?
Just that these items probably are better discussed when we come back, and obviously, ponds outside of the CRA areas would not be something that would be
Correct.
subject to this board's discussion. So I think we'll come back in November and we can address some of this stuff.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Board Member Maniscalco and a second by Board Member Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The CRA meeting is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.